You ever have one of those nights? It's like 3 a.m., you're just staring at the ceiling and your brain starts spinning. What if the car dies tomorrow? Could I actually afford that? Or maybe you find yourself mindlessly scrolling Zillow, just torturing yourself with houses you know are out of reach, and you wonder, is the whole system just broken? Well, what if I told you it's not you? What if the financial rulebook we've all been handed is the real problem?
Let's really dig into this for a second. The reason so much of the financial advice out there feels completely useless is because, well, it is, from a different century. The entire economic world has changed. We're talking wages, the cost of housing, student debt, all of it. But the advice we're getting is stuck way in the past. It's kind of like trying to navigate rush hour traffic in a major city using a map from the horse and buggy days. It just doesn't work.
You see this huge disconnect, right? On one side, you've got the old school advice. Save up 3 to 6 months of expenses. Don't spend more than 28% of your income on a house. But then over here, you've got our reality, massive student loans, a cost of living that's just crippling, and wages that have barely budged. The old playbook, it's broken.
Okay, so let's start with the first big one, the holy grail of personal finance, the emergency fund. We've all had it drilled into our heads. You have to have 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up. But for most of us, that advice is so completely overwhelming that it's not just unhelpful, it's actually damaging.
This one-size-fits-all advice just ignores your actual life. Think about it. Are you 22 years old with a couple of roommates, or are you 45 and supporting a family of 4? Do you have a super stable government job, or are you a freelancer? It doesn't matter. The advice is the same for everyone, even though our lives couldn't be more different.
And let's be honest, what even are living expenses? Are we talking about your current lifestyle, with the takeout and your 7 different streaming services and a gym membership? Or are we talking about bare bones, lights on, ramen noodles survival mode? The difference there could be thousands of dollars a month, which makes the goal feel so impossible that a lot of people just don't even start.
So what's the actual reality on the ground? 42%. That's the percentage of Americans who have absolutely zero emergency savings. Not a little bit, zero.
And for those who do have some savings squirreled away, the median amount is just $500. That's it. That's what most people have to deal with, everything from a busted transmission to losing a job. And it gets even more stark. Only 44% of Americans could actually cover a simple $1,000 emergency using their savings. We're not talking about 6 months of expenses here. We're talking about a single unexpected, unlucky break. The gap between the advice and reality is just massive. So, okay, the old model is clearly broken. What's the new one then? Let's talk about building a financial safety net that actually works in the real world. One that's designed to build momentum, not make you feel hopeless. Research has shown that having just $2,000 in savings can make a huge psychological difference. And why is that? Because it turns a potential financial crisis into a simple inconvenience. That car repair goes from being a source of sleepless nights to just an annoying errand. That peace of mind? It's incredibly powerful. So instead of this one giant, intimidating goal, let's think about it in tiers. First, a small fund, maybe $500 to $2,000 for those minor annoyances. Then, a medium fund for bigger issues that don't actually threaten your income. And then, and only then, do you start building that larger fund specifically for income replacement. It makes the whole process feel manageable and, actually rewarding. And we absolutely have to talk about debt. Look, if you're carrying high-interest credit card debt, trying to save up a massive emergency fund is just mathematically insane. You're losing, 19% on that debt every single year while your savings earns next to nothing. The smarter move is to build that small buffer, then go to war with that high-interest debt before you even think about building a massive fund. All right, let's move on to the next big myth, the one that sits right at the heart of the American dream, homeownership. Because just like with emergency funds, the rules for buying a house are completely broken, and they're leading millions of people down a path to being house poor. The classic piece of advice is the 28% rule. But this rule was created back in an era when people didn't have $400 car payments and student loan balances the size of a small country's GDP. The financial world is completely different now, but the guideline, it hasn't changed a bit. Now here's where so many people get into serious trouble. A bank might approve you for a loan where your total debt payments are up to 45% of your gross income. But you don't live on your gross pay, do you? You live on your take-home pay. You have to remember, a bank is not your financial advisor. They are a business and they are selling you debt. So, let's get real about what a house actually costs. Because that mortgage payment you see online, that's just the appetizer and a very expensive meal.
Your true monthly cost is what we call PITI plus M. That stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, plus maintenance. And let me tell you, property taxes and homeowners insurance can easily add hundreds of dollars a month, and they almost always go up over time.
And then you've got maintenance. A really good rule of thumb is to budget 1% of your home's value every single year for repairs and upkeep. So for a $400,000 home, that's another $330 a month every month just to keep things from falling apart. That's a huge expense that you just don't have to think about when you're renting.
And when you zoom out and look at the big picture, you see the brutal reality. There is a massive and growing gap between what the average American household earns and what the average American home actually costs.
The conclusion is pretty much unavoidable. The person earning the median income in America simply cannot afford the median-priced home. The math just doesn't work anymore. It's as simple as that.
So if the old rules are totally broken, what's the new playbook? I mean, how are you supposed to navigate this financial world without completely setting yourself up for disaster?
All right, here it is, your modern game plan. Let's just walk through it. First, build that small buffer. We're talking $500 to $2,000. This isn't about surviving for 6 months. It's about buying yourself that crucial peace of mind. Second, once that buffer is locked in, you go after any high-interest debt with everything you've got. Third, if you're even thinking about a house, you have to calculate the total cost. That's PITI plus maintenance. Fourth, and this is a big one, base all your affordability decisions on your take-home pay, not your gross income. And finally, you've got to give yourself permission to just ignore the pressure to follow outdated rules that have nothing to do with your life today. So let's just quickly recap the key takeaways here. Banks profit from your debt. They're not your financial therapist. The idea of the perfect emergency fund is the enemy of the good one you can actually start today. In a lot of markets, renting is actually the financially smarter choice. And maybe most importantly, your financial plan needs to work for your life right now, not for the world your parents lived in.
So, where does that leave all of us? The old definitions of what it means to be financially successful, they're pretty much gone. The goalposts have moved. So the real question now is, in a world full of outdated rules, what does financial security truly mean to you?